We have come to the point in the evening when I'm gonna do some comedy. So, well, here we go with that. Um, I don't know if everyone else has been thinking about their past during this. I feel like this time period has given me a lot of time to think. And I've been thinking forward and I've been thinking backwards. And something that I realized is I'm really bad at setting what you would call smart goals. And I've always been bad at this, even when I was a kid. So what is a SMART goal? A SMART goal, if you haven't heard of it, it's an acronym, and it basically just means an achievable goal. So some people are very bad at setting achievable goals. They'll always set really crazy high, lofty goals for themselves. And I'll do that. So, for example, a crazy high lofty goal for someone might be, I'm going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and they've never climbed a mountain before. A smart goal for that person would be, I am going to climb up Sugarloaf Mountain. That's like an actionable, achievable thing you can do on your way to one day eventually climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. For me, I decided to set a SMART goal for myself while I was working from home, something that I could achieve while I've been in my apartment for a long time. So some good things that I could have done, but I did not, would be I could have set a SMART goal that I was going to learn to cook like 3 simple dishes. So I would be able to make food for myself. Or a SMART goal would be I would be able to just pick a very specific part of my apartment. Like, I'm going to organize the bathroom or the kitchen. Those all would have been great SMART goals. The goal I set for myself during this time, and I set it about 2 weeks ago, was that I was going to figure out who the Zodiac killer was. And this makes sense based on who I am. I have always been obsessed with finding the Zodiac killer since I was about 15, and the movie Zodiac came out in 2007 with Mark Ruffalo. And I just knew that I had the power to figure out who the Zodiac killer was. And then, but life got busy when I was 15. I was in high school, and then I had the SATs, so I kind of tabled it for a few years. And then I kind of had a resurgence in figuring out who the Zodiac killer was when I was 23. And I had just like kind of moved into Silver Spring, and I was starting a new job, and I needed to find something to do, but then life got busy again. Anyway, I'm 28 now. As I'm sure you probably know, if you know anything about the Zodiac killer, it's really almost impossible to figure out who he is. He's probably done it on purpose, but like, it wasn't the smartest goal that I could have set for myself or anyone. It's an impossible task, but I don't know if I'm going to make any progress on it. Probably, who knows? I don't know. I'm going to leave that open-ended for you all. One thing I've noticed about myself is that so not only am I bad at setting goals, I'm really bad at taking compliments. And I'm like, okay, like, that's something I should work on. Like, I'm not the most positive person. I really admire people who can maintain their positivity. I feel like I'm more of a realist, but honestly, I probably am more of a pessimist. And I think that kind of like goes into that. I am a self-deprecating person. And I had a friend recently who was like talking to me and like was giving me some prompts of things that I can say. So my friend was like, oh, like every morning I like stare in the mirror and I ask myself some of these questions and I answer them truthfully. And so one of the questions that my friend asked and posed to me was like, in the morning, something to ask yourself is like, what's one positive attribute that you have? And my response to that is, I'm not the worst person that I know. And she was like, okay, let's try a different one. She's like, what's something that I'm proud of that I have done recently? My response to that is, I'm proud that I'm not a complete failure. And then the final one was, what is something that you are good at? And my response is, I'm really good at recognizing my faults. In fact, I have so many faults. I'm really good at recognizing them. They're hard to miss, and I can call them out. So that was the end of the prompts. She seemed pretty crestfallen, but I've always been like that. I've been kind of a self-deprecating person. In school, you probably would think that I was never the most popular kid. In fact, I was probably like a pretty nerdy kid and teenager growing up. thought it would be really cool to learn Elvish, which is really the only foreign language I ever learned, and it's not even a real language. And then because I can't use Elvish in like normal, and by Elvish I mean the language they use in Lord of the Rings, which I pretty much watched every day from about 10 years old to 15, and I don't even know how to speak it anymore because it's not like you can use it in everyday conversation. There just aren't people out there speaking Elvish. You think that because of that, I would have been bullied as a kid, and I probably would have been, except I was so self-deprecating, even as a child, that, like, bullies just got exacerbated and they would like move on to someone else. Like, you know, teachers and parents would always be like, oh, pretend it doesn't bother you, they'll go away. That's actually probably some of the best advice. Not only did I pretend it didn't bother me, I would just agree profusely. Like in class, I'm gonna be like, man, Stacey, like, you're so lame. I'd be like, you're right. If only I was as good as you, Christian. And like, oh no, I kind of freak them out. So some reverse psychology there, and I wasn't even trying. So maybe that's something I'm good at. I was good at like psyching people out. You think that I would have grown into maybe a more popular person as time went by, when I learned it wasn't cool to learn Elfish and try to talk to people in Elvish. But I don't know, me and I'm sure a lot of other comics, we write our jokes down. So I got a journal recently, and this might at first seem like a normal journal, but to that you would be wrong. This is a scratch and sniff journal. So periodically through the pages, there will be prompts that you are supposed, like this says cinnamon, and you like supposed to scratch it and you sniff it. And I just want to say, if you're someone who already struggles with finding and maintaining friends, you probably shouldn't get a scratch and sniff journal and then routinely smell it like this, because it just looks like you're smelling your book, no matter how inconspicuous you try to be. And that's just not the answer for increasing your popularity. So that's something I've learned during this time. At this point, I am going to do a little comedy. One thing I've been thinking about is recently, I've just been kind of thinking about a lot of the things I used to do as a kid and how I've been seeing like a resurgence of those behaviors like over the past month. So I was always like, and as an adult, I'm a pretty anxious, fearful person, but as a kid, it was even more so. Like I was always that kid in class who was like scared of almost everything. And just to give you like a baseline, my first word, the first word I ever said in my life was uh-oh. So I was pretty off the gate, pretty scared of everything. Something as a kid that I really wanted though was an animal friend. So what is that? It's not a pet per se. This was something that in a lot of Disney movies that came out, the protagonists would have an animal friend. And even when you watch Pixar movies today, there's typically like that animal friend who replaces a human companion and will travel with the main protagonist. And in 4th grade, that kind of came to life for me when I convinced my whole class that a dove was following me home from school every day and was living in a tree outside my house. And I said this story, I guess, with such conviction, the entire class really thought that this dove was following me home every day. And then one day, the dove passed away, and we all came to class in the morning and saw it. And that was really sad. And I bring that up to say, ever since then, I really have not liked birds. And I know, like, that bird didn't purposely, like, do me wrong and, like, just died. Like, it's a bird, it was in nature, it died. But I've always hated birds, and I've noticed that, like, not only do I not like birds now, I'm actually afraid of them. Like, birds are pretty ruthless. So I haven't really been leaving the apartment. Once a week, I'll go for a walk around my neighborhood. But I have a little balcony, and I'm living with a roommate, and my roommate set up an herb garden outside on the balcony, so she's growing her own herbs. And the other day, I noticed, like, 2 birds were on my balcony, like, kind of pecking at the herbs. So I, like, opened the door to my balcony, and I was like, hey, birds! And I, like, tried to shoo them away, and they got, like, angry and kind of like flew at me a little bit. And I was like, ah, like birds are impossible to defend yourself from, because like you don't know where they're coming at. Like, it's one of those things where I've seen the movie The Birds that Alfred Hitchcock made, and a lot of people are like, oh, that movie's scary because he took something that's normally not scary and made them scary. And I'm like, no, like birds are just naturally scary. Like over the years, people have tried to make birds less scary. Like maybe you've heard this, like my grandma used to say this to me, but she's like, if a bird poops on you, it's good luck. And a lot of old people say this like phrase. I think they're like trying to make it so like we're not scared of birds. We think they're like these nice woodland creatures, but like no, like birds are awful. So 2 days ago, I was taking my weekly walk around the neighborhood, and there is like this really large dove kind of like sitting on the sidewalk. And I was like, that looks like my dove friend that I had like all those years ago. And I was like, and I know logically it wasn't that, but I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, hi, bird. And it like charged at me a little bit. And I was like, bird, stop. Like, and this bird was large. Like, I don't know what was going on, but clearly, I don't know. I'm just not good with animals, I guess. But I have been getting scared recently. There's a lot of people like, you know, those people who will ask you to watch scary movies with them, and then they're like, oh no, like I prefer watching something else. Like, why don't we watch like a comedy movie? And they're like, oh, you're such a baby. Like, I'm gonna say this, I like scary movies now and again, but that's just not like something I wake up every day and I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do today? Watch a scary movie. Like, no one ever, you don't end the day by wishing someone unpleasant dreams. Like, it's so weird to me that people like really like scary movies. Like, and there are some like really gory movies. I'm like I love a good thriller that actually has a plot, but like a slasher film, no, like not for me. But I don't know. I think people who really like scary movies are also those same people who like to like dish it out, but they can't take it. Like they love like watching a movie, but they would never like get into a high-speed chase or like jump out an airplane because like they could handle real fear. That's my working theory. I don't know. As a kid, I like really experienced my share of like that phrase like, oh, they can dish it out, but they can't take it. That's what they used to say like bullies in school. I was never the most popular kid. Surprise! No, it's not probably a surprise, but I really wasn't. I was a pretty unpopular kid growing up. And so you think that bullies would really would target me, and I think they did eventually. But I really exemplified like, you know, if you ignore them, they'll go away. But I took it even more so. So I'm a pretty self-deprecating person, and even as a kid, I was. So when a bully would insult me, like I would get a question wrong in class and they'd be like, oh, you're such an idiot, Stacy. I would turn to them and I'd be like, you're so right, Christian. I am an idiot. If only I was smart like you. Let's be friends. And I would like kind of freak them out. And in a way, I think I was using some reverse psychology. I don't even know. Anyway, they didn't bother me after that. So that's a good. This has been an interesting time, though. I feel like I've only gotten a little bit more fearful, a little bit more anxious. So the other day on Google, I was like, how do I feel happy? And then it reminded me of something, some advice that I really took to heart as a kid, and I will always come back to. It's from Legally Blonde, one of my favorite movies. And there's a line in Legally Blonde where Elle Woods, who's like my hero, she says, endorphins make you happy. Happy people just don't shoot their husbands, they just don't. And I was like, all right, endorphins, like I need some endorphins. I want to feel happy. So I Googled how to get endorphins. And that answer is exercise. I'm going to be honest, I've never voluntarily exercised before. I've done like gym class and stuff like that where you had to exercise, but I've not really ever gone out on my own volition to exercise. And I never thought I would be here advocating for exercise, but everyone, endorphins are real. You feel good doing exercise. So keep that in mind, everyone, as the weeks go on.